Morning, this is Mr. William, West Virginia, and it happens to be Sunday, the 18th of March. I've just come off of a 3-day fast, an incredible time of God disciplining me. Nothing really incredibly fantastic happened except for I just felt closer to Him because I drew away from some things. I want to speak to some of you that maybe are struggling, maybe a little tired, maybe a little exhausted, maybe you don't see what you think is God moving. And I want to tell you that God can move in the most unusual ways sometimes in our lives. And sometimes we don't notice it. You know, you may think that you are ineffective. You may think that no one sees you. You may think that life just doesn't seem to matter, that your life doesn't matter. But God sees, and He's always working behind the scenes. You know, as I peer into the Bible, I see God move close to people who draw near to Him. And He makes them into people that change history. People like Moses and Abraham and Joshua, Samuel, Elisha, Ruth, Mary and Joseph, the prophet Samuel, and there are so many others. I mean, I can't mention all the great people of God, but somehow God got their attention and they drew close to Him. Some of you out there are great people that have drawn close to God. And maybe even though it may seem like nothing's happening, you know, I was reminded this morning that in a moment, Jesus was walking on the water and Peter stepped out of the boat. Now, he meant to sink a couple seconds later because he got his eyes off of Jesus, but for a couple moments he was actually standing on something that he shouldn't have been standing on. As a fisherman, he knew that water could not hold up his body, but he got out because he saw Jesus doing it, and he moved toward Him, and Jesus ended up keeping him from sinking and dying. But the thing is that for a moment, what looked like a mistake and maybe him being ineffective, he was standing on water, and he began to walk on water while 11 other disciples were sitting in a boat. I made decisions in my life that changed the course of my life, and I always thought that, you know, somehow I was being led by God. Looking back now, I definitely know I was being led by God, but I still made some bad decisions. You know, I left home when I was 21, moved to West Virginia. For a guy who was raised in New York, moving to West Virginia, a place I didn't even know existed at one time until my best friend moved here, it has become my home. And here I found out that I was braver than I thought I could be. I could find work. I could influence lives. You do not believe the amount of people I've met through working for a gas company. The homes that I got into that I would have normally not gotten into because I worked for a gas company and had gas company on my shirt. The people that I've ministered to, lives that I know have been changed, men that I've worked with, and even, you know, leaving that job and going into the nursing profession. It's unbelievable the amount of people. I just met a person on Facebook that I apparently took care of while I was in Health South. Someone had had a stroke, and we've reconnected, and her family, they're a godly family, and we're going to get together. And it's just amazing how the journey unfolds. You know, I am by accident a percussionist. I don't play drums. I play congas. I play hand drums. I play anything that you can shake with your hand. I play cymbals, and this is a gift from God because I don't read music. I wasn't formally taught. I don't know music theory, but God has given me an ability to add something to worship that's just me. And right now I play at my home church. I play at Rushing Winds Biker Church, and I also play with a bunch of guys up in Morgantown a couple times a month. And there are times where I feel totally ineffective. I feel like I am totally out of my element. I am totally uncomfortable playing with some guys that are just such incredible musicians. But I'm always amazed at how it seems like I'm making noise and not doing anything, and everybody's amazed at how great it sounds. So I want to encourage you guys that, you know, maybe are thinking about being musicians or want to play. Play. God says to make a joyful noise. Doesn't say anything about being proficient. And there are scriptures that talk about men of God that were musicians that God taught and made proficient. I'm not saying don't go for excellency, but for my life, I was always busy, so I didn't have time to put hours and hours into practice. I didn't have the money to get lessons. I have totally depended on God to teach me how to do what I do. Totally. And that's much of the way my life has gone. You know, in relationships, I had only one picture of how a relationship would go, and that was my mom and dad, a marriage that I watched, and you know, I only saw my parents fight maybe one time in my whole life, and you know, they insulated us from a world where there was dysfunction everywhere else, but not in our household. And it's not to say it was a perfect household, but I had two parents, and I had a father who gave me an example of moral excellency that I have not seen anywhere else. He was such a good moral man, such a perfect man in a lot of the things that he did that I was looking at. Now, that he would tell you he wasn't perfect, and he would have did some things differently, and that's the way we all are. But the thing is that God has allowed me to live a life that has at times seemed like it's been charmed, even though there's been mistakes and things going wrong. And God is always in the background, even when we're not doing what we need to do. You know, he sent Jesus to die on a cross, and it says that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He died with the idea that we were imperfect people, and that we were going to make mistakes, and that we were going to sometimes not even want to be around God and not want to listen to him. But he was still doing what he did because he loved us. That's the thing that's really neat, is that he loves us. And in Jeremiah it says, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you." This is God, saith the Lord. "Thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall you call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And ye shall see me, you shall seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. And I will be found of you, saith the Lord. And I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, says the Lord. And I will bring you again into a place whence I have caused you to be carried away captive." Now this is Jeremiah speaking prophetically. But you know what? You can always take Scripture personal. He might have been talking to a certain amount of people at that time, maybe to the Israelites. But if you take this and take it personal, which is what I do with the Scriptures. I look into Scriptures and I take it personal. I take it that he's speaking to me. He's speaking to some of you right now. Some of you that are weary, that are tired, that are exhausted, that maybe are looking down at a table that's just completely empty, and you're empty, and you're wondering how you're going to go on, how you're going to take one more step. I have been there. I have faced my giants. You know, I'm a Marshall fan. Here in West Virginia, the only university that matters is West Virginia University. Today, Marshall's playing West Virginia University. And, you know, in my heart of hearts, I know everyone wants West Virginia University to win. And that's just the state as a whole. I'm a Marshall fan. Don't ask me why. I always go for the underdogs. I always go for I've been a Viking fan my whole life. You don't think my heart didn't get broke this year when they just completely blew it and didn't even get to go in the Super Bowl? That's life. You know, I was an equipment operator when I left the gas company, and you know what? Some of my best work never seen because it was buried. As a nurse, you just do what you do, and you don't think about whether or not people are going to run into you in the streets 10 years later and go, "Hey, you were the nurse that took care of me, thank you." You know, I know a lot of military guys, man. You know, you go off to fight a war, you go off to do what you do, not realizing that, you may die, or you may be wounded, or you may come back and people may appreciate you, or they may spit on you. Life throws us these curveballs at times, and you just wonder, what are you doing, God? Why is my life going the way it's going? Why am I here right now? Why am I alone? I've been married several times, and at times I felt alone in marriages because there was no connection, even though we had said we wanted to be connected. And that's just the way relationships go sometimes. And, one person could be working at it, the other person could be working to get out of it. One person could be working at it, and the other person could be completely distracted with their life. And nobody, there's no formula for how things work other than, I have just learned to, no matter what, turn my face toward God and follow Him with all my heart. I had one marriage that ended, and the lady that left told me, she says, you love God way more than you love me. And that was a true statement. It was. I did. That's how I love everybody else, by loving Him more than everybody else. It's how I survive. And I want to talk to you that are underdogs. You know what? You guys that are playing for Marshall. You know what? You're going up against West Virginia University. You know what? There's still a chance you can win. David beat Goliath. I know people think I'm stupid for saying that, but I believe it can happen. And I think it can happen just to showcase and just to exalt maybe one person on that team. Who knows? God does the unusual. He does the unthinkable. He does what we call miracles at times. I've seen two of my children suffer brain injuries, and they are two wonderful young people right now. Their lives were completely changed by something that, they didn't know they were getting into. But it didn't stop God moving in their life. It doesn't stop God doing something miraculous to help them live out a life that might make people look and go, wow, that was God. I want to encourage you guys, any of you, whether you're on the Marshall team or whether you're just someone that just feels like life is completely against you, God is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. And I kind of hope that power is faith. I hope that your faith will help you to see something that maybe someone else doesn't see. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is complete trust in a God who you cannot see. I trust somebody speaking to me that I don't see physically, but I know He speaks because He speaks through His Word. He speaks into my heart, and He speaks through situations. I see things. I see signs. I see car license plates, and God, I see Him speaking to me at times. I see Him everywhere. You can see God in just about anything if you really want to see Him. And I pray that today, it's Sunday, I'm getting ready to go to our church, to Connecting Point Community Church, and you know what? I'm excited because I see God moving, even though maybe sometimes it doesn't seem like I'm moving. Sometimes I'm still, because He's instructed us to be still and to know I am God. I pray you would be still, and in the stillness that you're in, that God would draw near to you and bless you today. Shalom.